Jamaica, make we do the right thing. Make we live good today for a better tomorrow. Talk it out. Don't fight it out. The time by the Ministry of National Security is
6:30.
Staff at the Electoral Office of Jamaica EOJ is just about now finished counting the ballots cast in today's by-election in Northeast St. Anne. More precisely, they'll need another about 20 more minutes to complete the counting. They are well over 65% of ballots counted, and based on the numbers so far, the JLP's Matthew Samuda will run away with this election result. On the show today, we'll speak with Samuda's spokesman. We'll hear from the other two candidates in the race. We hope to catch a word with the Director of Elections, Glassport Brown, and hear from a reporter who was on the ground in St. Anne for the vibes and the occasion of the by-election, how people took to this vote in this constituency. Lead story starts now on CVM TV. Northeast St. Anne by-election is done. Polls closed promptly at 5 p.m. after being opened at 7 a.m. And low voter turnout is what we're being told. There was an update as recently as about 3:30 from the Electoral Office indicated that less than 10%, around about 9.3% thereabouts, 9.4% of registered voters had already cast their ballot in what was expected to be a low voter turnout affair, especially with the opposition PNP choosing to sit this one out. Only the JLP's Matthew Samuda, independent candidate David Anderson, and Chase Neal of the United Independence Congress went forward, and with one of the big two missing, you know that the interest of voters would be depressed from the usual situation. Trisha Gay Kelly was our reporter out there in St. Anne earlier today, and she joins me on the phone. Trisha Gay, good evening. Welcome to Lead Story.
Hi, George. Good evening. Thank you.
All right. Tell me about what you saw and heard today out there in Northeast St. Anne. A rather low-octane affair based on the EOJ's report. How did you see things?
Well, as you said, it was a low voter turnout. We didn't see many people, and the most we saw were Jamaica Labour Party supporters. Hardly saw any supporters for the independent candidates. Most of them that we saw were representing Mr. Anderson. There was no one for Mr. Neal, and we actually didn't even see him throughout the day. We saw Anderson, though, but overall, we saw a lot of green and just little specks of white.
Yeah, and how would you describe the vibe among the Labourites you saw out and about earlier today in Northeast St. Anne?
Well, to be honest, it was not what we expected. Expected a little more vibe. They were pretty much dead. And the only time we saw some excitement was when the polls were closing and the truck came with their music. And a few people started singing and dancing, but for the entire day, it was just people coming inside and out of the polling stations to vote. There was no excitement.
Of the three candidates, Trisha Gay, which of them had a vote in the constituency, and did that candidate vote for himself based on your knowledge?
I know Mr. Anderson voted, and I believe Mr. Samuda voted. Anderson would have explained that his vote, he's expected to get most of his votes in, I'm not certain, I'm not remembering the name of his community or his division that he's trying to vie for, but he explained that there are two specific areas he expects to get most of his votes in, and we visited those areas, but he still did not have many supporters there. He had one die-hearted supporter.
I'm looking at a screenshot from the EOJ's counting center, Trisha Gay, and it says 110 of 146 boxes completed, which represents about 75% of boxes. And it shows David Anderson on 181 votes, 5% of the total. Chase Neal on 1% of votes, that's 26 votes in terms of a number. And Matthew Samuda way out front, 3,675 votes for 95% of the total votes cast, with 75% of boxes counted. This pretty much accords with what you saw on the ground today, eh?
Yes, it does. And as expected, even though they were worried that, the voter turnout was low, the JLP people expressed that they were confident in their candidate simply because they had the most voters out. It was literally a sea of green. Every single polling station we went to, it was green, green, green.
Hear you on that. Trisha Gay, thank you for your time. I have to run for the first break of the show. You make your way back safe at the broadcast house.
Thank you, George.
Trisha Gay Kelly, our reporter who was on the ground out there in Northeast St. Anne for today's by-election in that constituency. More on Lead's story after these.
I was surprised by my chronic illness diagnosis. I thought working out hard I would fix it, but it wasn't enough. Now, my prescription meds are a part of my routine.
When I got my diagnosis, I really felt down and stopped spending time with the people I love. Then I decided not to let any disease get the best of me. And I'm committed to taking my meds as prescribed. On time, every time.
No hesitation. Take your medication. A message from the NHF. NHF is here for health. NHF is here for you.
Father, what you doing again?
Writing the opera Isaiah.
Isaiah?
Jamaican opera, master.
Jamaican opera?
Yes. It's about the greatest of prophets.
When is it going to be?
5th and 6th of October.
One
weekend only.
Where can I get my ticket?
You have to check social media, master.
Social media?
Social media.
But Father, you got high-tech, man.
Yeah, man.
Isaiah, October 5 and 6 at the National Arena. 1 weekend only. Don't you miss it.
Make a move now. Make a move now.
Hi everyone, my name is Kurt Dunn.
Greetings from Kelly's Kelly Yoga.
Hey, it's Robin Morrison, and I am your National Physical Activity Specialist. And it's time to make a move.
Jamaica, let's get moving again. Season 2 of the Ministry of Health and Wellness Jamaica Move series is here. Join us Wednesdays at 5 a.m. and Saturdays at 8 a.m. right here on CVM TV. Let's get moving.
Make a move now.
Welcome back to Lead Story here on CVM TV. As we told you, very latest results we are getting from the EOJ Counting Centre shows a chasm between Matthew Samuda, the JLP's candidate in Northeast St. Anne by-election, between him and the other two men in the race. Samuda with about 90+% of votes cast so far to his name, and the other two men really just specks on the radar. I'm going to speak now with the man in charge of media relations for the Samuda campaign team. He's Senator Abka Fitzenley, Parliamentary Secretary in the Office of the Prime Minister. Senator Fitzenley, good afternoon. Good evening to you, sir.
Very good evening to you, George, and good evening to the viewers of CVM TV.
Excellent. From your perspective, Senator, how did things go today? How did the machinery work in these circumstances?
Well, I think the machinery worked reasonably well, and we performed according to expectation. You might recall, Mr. Samuda, that Matthew indicated in an interview today that he anticipated about 4,000 or just over 4,000 votes in this by-election. And we have achieved that, I can indicate. The latest information coming to me is that with 146 of 146 boxes counted, Matthew Samuda has won, after preliminary count, this is 4,838 votes. Neil Chase has got 30 votes, and the other individual, David Fritz Anderson, has got 222 votes. So Matthew Samuda has commanded 95% of the votes cast today, according to the preliminary count, based on information coming to me, and has indeed achieved the objective today, that is Member of Parliament elect for Northeast St. Anne. In summary, I think the machinery worked pretty well. members of the party's top brass came out and they did the hard yards. They put in the work, and hence we have seen this result. George, you might compare that 2010 when the late great Shaheen Robinson won in a by-election in 2010, won 5,082 votes to independent candidate Devon Evans, who won over 1,000 votes. So slightly more for Shaheen back in 2010 according to the number of votes, but Matthew has commanded a greater percentage. It's not a competition in terms of an internal competition, but I'm sure that Shaheen Robinson is looking down and smiling, given that North East St. Ann is in capable hands, the hands of Matthew Peter Samuda.
Already, Senator Samuda, the social media warriors are out and of various stripes, various persuasions, and some are already saying that, look, for the amount of cash spent in North East St. Ann on the by-election and for voter turnout to be so low, almost as if to cast a shadow over what Samuda has achieved today, your response to those who would criticize what the gentleman has achieved this afternoon?
No, I would not to suggest that the campaign waged by the Jamaica Labour Party in this by-election was awash with cash is to be totally inaccurate. I'd say the spending was moderate. We took the by-election seriously. We take the people of the constituency very seriously. It's a constituency that's near and dear to the hearts of many of us here in the Jamaica Labour Party. So this business about wads of cash being pumped into the campaign and underwhelming results is totally inaccurate. What we have seen here is that Matthew has devoted himself to the people of North East St. Ann. He has led a campaign based on uplifting messaging, reasoning with the people, hearing their needs, hearing their demands, and indicating how he intends to assist with their wants and their needs, water, infrastructure, roads, etc. Matthew has communicated with the people of the various divisions in North East St. Ann. I believe just under 5,000 votes is a commendable showing, given that it's a by-election that was not contested by the opposition in a formal capacity, because recall they had put up, a gentleman who was a former caretaker for the PNP was nominated as an independent candidate, only being able to muster just over 220 votes. I believe those figures speak for themselves.
Yeah. Senator, lastly, the fact is that this by-election is now history, at least preliminarily. The preliminary results are that Matthew Samuda has come home streets and lanes ahead of his rivals. This is a test run, one would imagine, for the real thing that we expect next year. Would you say that the machinery and its operatives in North East St. Ann has more gears to engage, or is this its ceiling?
Yeah, many more gears to engage. I'd say, George, I don't believe we came out of second gear in terms of activating the party machinery in the constituency, because we are aware that the big one is to come. We don't know when the Prime Minister and party leader will call it. There's the option of calling it any time before, sometime in the middle to late September next year when it's constitutionally due. But the duty of the various MPs, the various candidates, is to put their constituencies in a shape where whenever the party leader decides to go, that we are ready. Matthew has done that. He has done that in North East St. Ann, and he's a gentleman I know very well. I know that after the final count, tomorrow or whenever it is, and he is duly sworn as a member of Parliament for North East St. Ann, he'll go back to work on bringing service to the people of the constituency, itemize a number of areas in which, there are sections of the constituency that are in need. I know Matthew will get the job done. And, there won't be any excessive celebration, after this achievement this evening. We'll go back to work and attend to the needs of the people. We take representation of the people very seriously.
Yeah. And lastly, Senator, based on where we are now, so the preliminary count is over. The final official count will follow. By about when? Today's Monday. By about when do you expect Matthew Peter Samuda to be formally installed as Member of Parliament for North East St. Ann?
Well, that's a matter for the leadership of the EOJ to determine when and the where, but what normally obtains based on my recollection of how these things go is that the second count, the formal count, will take place, usually takes place the following day after the preliminary count, which takes place today. Then the way is paved for the winning candidate, the MP-elect, to be duly sworn. So, I'd say in the next day or two, we expect Matthew to be duly elected as the Member of Parliament for North East Centre in a constituency that was ably represented by Shahini Fakuri Elizabeth Robinson for over 20 years, which kind of reversed the dismal fortunes of the Jamaica Labour Party in and around 2001.
Yes.
It's a good day for the Jamaica Labour Party, a good day for Matthew Samuel, and I dare say a good day for the people of North East Centre. They have representation of the highest caliber available to them. And I thank them. I want to thank every member of the constituency, each voter who came out today and participated in the democratic process and paved the way for Matthew Samuel to be elected, to be designated now as MP-elect for the constituency.
Hear you on that. Thank you very much, Senator. All the best to you.
Thank you. Good.
Senator Abka Fitzenley, he is the campaign spokesman for Matthew Samuda, who has won the by-election in North East St. And no surprises there. Let me take the break. When we come back, I'll give you the preliminary numbers as I have them.
The time by Grace. Taste that moves you is
6:45.
Ray and Never, feel we culture. Yo!
New beginning, we winning, so share our spirit where you living, yeah.
Share it.
I make we all a one bar, you don't know we come from far.
Papa, anytime we rep, feel we country. Rear rum, it have to come with me.
No matter with the bad vibes.
Poor rear rum, a celebration time. Rear rum.
I feel we culture.
Rear rum.
Make we show ya Jamaican culture.
Ray and Never, overproof, and we just have to do with culture.
Rise and shine and start your day with the Wealthy Club's Power Hour. It's a transformative mind-body workout infused with strength training, yoga, meditation, and journaling. Every Wednesday from 5:30 a.m. to 6:30 a.m. Starting September 11th, join us for free live in person right here at the marketplace in front of Camila's Kitchen, or you can join in from anywhere in the world thanks to our friends over at Just Create. And afterwards, refuel with your post-workout breakfast from Camila's Kitchen to truly support your wellness and your fitness goals. Catch us for this special workout hour on CVM TV on Mondays from 5 a.m. to 6 a.m. and a repeat at 5:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. Wellfit Wednesdays starting September 11th at 5:30 to 6:30 a.m. right here at the marketplace. See you there.
Brought to you by Tetley.
A tea for everyone.
Back with us on Lead Story here on CVM TV. So you heard Senator Abka Fitzenley, Parliamentary Secretary in the Office of the Prime Minister, speaking about the fortunes of Matthew Samuda in the by-election in North East St. Anne, which is now history. Senator Fitzenley is the campaign spokesman for Matthew Samuda, and he reeled off some numbers. Those numbers have come to us now in another form, and they match with what Senator Fitzenley told us. There were 146 boxes with ballots in them, 146 ballots with boxes. It took the EOJ about 97 minutes to finish the tally, to complete the tally. Polls closed at 5 o'clock, and of course the boxes had to be transported to the counting centre. So the movement of the boxes across the constituency under police guard, all of the logistical issues involved, and that accounted for a chunk of the time that it took to come to a final preliminary tally. And the final preliminary tally, 43,827 people were eligible to vote in North East St. Anne. 43,827 eligible voters. So, how did they vote? Those who, from that number, actually went to the polls. 222 of them went and cast their votes for the independent candidate, David Fritz Anderson. He got 222 votes. He ran as an independent candidate. Chase Albert Neal from the UIC, he attracted 30 votes. He got 30 votes. So Anderson got 222, Neil got 30. And then Matthew Peter Samuda, he came close to the 5,000 vote mark. He polled 4,838 votes. Now remember, I gave you an overall number, 43,827. And then of that 43,827, less than about 12%, I would roughly calculate, turned up to vote. Matthew Samuda got 95% of all votes counted, not 95% of 43,827, but he got 95% of all votes counted. Neil got 1%, and then David Fitz Anderson got the remaining 4%. So 4,838 votes for Matthew Samuda, who is wearing the titular hat of Member of Parliament for North East St. And of course, these results have to be validated by the EOJ in an official count, which should be done by tomorrow morning, maybe by 11 o'clock. The official count will be done. The EOJ will issue a media release confirming the numbers, paving the way for Samuda to be sworn in to office maybe by as early as Thursday morning, if not Wednesday morning. It shouldn't go further than Thursday morning before he is sworn in as a Member of Parliament, adding to the government's number in the House of Representatives. Well, not really, because he's replacing someone who was there before. Marsha Smith was there holding a seat. Matthew Samuda will go to the Parliament and take up that seat. There's a small matter of his vacancy in the Senate, which the government will be expected, well, is expected to fill in the coming days by virtue of an announcement. So it's all over, the by-election in Northeast St. and as expected, Matthew Samuda, a runaway winner, a gulf between him and the rest of the pack, and he comes home the clear winner. Recall that the PNP sat out this election. They said that they would not be contesting any parliamentary by-election on principle, but they would be interested in going to the polls in St. Thomas to fill the division that has been called, the vacancy has been created by the death of one of their councillors in the St. Thomas Municipal Corporation. They say if you go to Enontown or Anontown in Clarendon as well, so a division in Clarendon, a division in St. Thomas at the municipal corporation level, they say if there are by-elections in those two local government councils, that they will field candidates, but they are not interested in any parliamentary by-elections at this time. They say they are keeping their powder dry for the general election, which is constitutionally due to be held next year. Now, we did get some footage earlier today from David Fitz Anderson and from Chase Neal, and I wonder if my producer is going to let us hear from them over the course of the day. Yeah, so I'm being told that that's being prepared. Right, so our reporters did catch up with both men and spoke to them at varying points, and they gave their perspective on the day. The result is not surprising, of course. The two big political parties would have been expected to put on some fireworks in the parish, in the constituency rather, if they had clashed. But with the PNP's withdrawal or their absence from the race, it was just the JLP to make all the running. And it would have been hugely disappointing if the final vote number for Samuda was, say, 1,000 plus or 2,000 plus, because then it would not be a good gauge for the JLP of where they are in the constituency broadly, especially because many Labourites would have been disaffected by the manner of Marsha Smith's leadership for whatever reason, but they would have not been too happy with their party, and so they may have withheld their support, saying that, boy, they're just going to sit out this one. Samuda getting 4,800 plus votes is an indicator to the JLP that the base, the rock bottom of the party is not in a bad shape, because if they can pull out that many voters in an election where the seat wasn't really at stake, because 500 of them could have turned up and Samuda would still have won by a significant majority, the fact that they got 4,800 and odd in a one-horse race would suggest to them that their fortunes are healthy in Northeast St. and if they can build on that base for the general election to come in 2025, then they should be in a good place. Do we have any of the other two candidates now? I think we can go to... All right, so we still are waiting to line up the... We're still waiting to get some word from, to hear from David Anderson. Interesting to hear what they had to say. given how the day went, whether they felt that at any point in the day that they would be able to pull out support to really warrant and frank their interest in the contest. And David Fritz Anderson is the first one we have lined up. Let's play that bite with David Anderson.
All right, so state your name and title for the record, please.
Well, I'm David Anderson, the independent candidate for Northeast Centre. Well, the only one that took the mantle when anybody else were just living with the norms.
All right, so you've come out today. What do you think about the voter turnout?
Well, it's low, but I mean, it's still early days. I mean, we have like maybe 3-4 hours or something like that to go. And I mean, anything can happen. Anything can happen. Most of my voters, they're working class and they choose to take the latter part. So we're out. We're not scared.
Okay, how confident are you that your voters will come out and support you?
I would like to say super confident. I don't know what degree you want to put it to.
Okay, so you're not deterred by what you're saying?
No, man. I mean, if that was it, I would be scared by everything I see around here because there's so much distractions and detractions. So I'm not daunted at all.
All right, and finally, what's your main goal or plan here if you do win?
I would like to say if I won't lose because I will win by all means, right? Winning doesn't mean that numbers, right? But I can win people to a new way of thinking, to think that, hey, listen, it's not all about who wears a particular color. It's about showing you how I care about the environment, right? And I've lived that life over the years, so it's no new thing, right? But people need to move from this one side, this side, and the two norms, and move into a new realm where we talk about community development, and not just by speech, but by real action.
All right, so I just did some quick calculations on my phone just to get the voter turnout for you. And so, remember, there were 43,827 registered voters. When I tallied the number of voters that the three candidates got, that came up to 5,090. So simple mathematics, you put 5,090 above and divide that number by 43,827, you're going to get 0.116. Multiply that by 100, you get 11.6%. So the voter turnout was 11.6%, roughly 12% to the nearest whole number. So 12% voter turnout, what I like to be specific when I'm talking about these things, so 11.6% voter turnout. And that leads me to Georgia State, because I'm saying you may look at a by-election, and say, why did we spend so many millions for a process, for an exercise that less than 12% of people in real terms came out to show their support? That's one of the drawbacks, you can say, of a democratic process. But the primary importance is not the number of people who came out. It's the fact that